In some financial circles, Latin America is fast becoming a popular place for investment as it is an emerging market that offers an alternative to the usual investor havens such as Europe and the US, both of which are experiencing financial stability problems. In my report today on Latin America, I've picked Mexico and its currency, the peso, as my focus point. Joining me on the line is peso specialist and senior economist at UBS in New York, Rafael de la Fuente. Thank you for joining me, Rafael. Now, for those watching who aren't as familiar with the peso, what are the advantages and disadvantages of trading this currency in today's tough climate?
One of the advantages is that you're looking at a currency that offers a lot of value, right? We've seen a sharp depreciation over the last 3 to 4 years in the Mexican peso, especially after the 2008-2009 financial crisis. That has allowed the country and its manufacturing sector to remain very competitive. But however you measure it, the currency today remains very weak. It's also one of the most freely tradable currencies in the world, certainly in the emerging market universe. It's fully derivable. You can trade it 24 hours a day. And you don't have much risk of intervention on the part of the central bank or the authorities in general. They like to let the currency float, and they've been very adamant about that.
Is it a realistic option as an alternative to more familiar pairs like the Aussie dollar or the cable, for instance, because even the peso has been affected by a slowdown in global growth and the problems in Europe? I can give you an example. A couple of days ago, it fell the most in 3 months after news that Spain's economy had shrank. What are your thoughts, Rafael?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the problems that the currency currently enjoys. It almost suffers from its own success as a hedging instrument for emerging market exposure more widely. As I mentioned before, we think the currency offers value on a fundamental basis. But when it comes to how it trades, because it is as flexible as it is, what you find is that in periods of risk, in a risk-off environment like the ones we have whenever Europe runs into problems, people sell the peso, investors sell the peso in order to protect their emerging market exposure, whether it be in Mexico or elsewhere. So it does get very sharp volatility on the back of that, and we do get sharp sell-offs when you have a risk-off environment. The big bet going down the road is that if the global economy stabilizes and we get into a more stable environment, this currency has to offer value. It's very, very cheap, and we see that primarily in the way its export sector performs.
Still on the subject of global growth, Rafael, the Bank of Mexico will announce its rate decision on Friday. What's the overall atmosphere like amongst analysts ahead of the decision?
We expect, and I think the market expects, for the central bank to remain on hold. This is a central bank that's kept rates unchanged for the better part of 3.5 years. In fact, I think it's one of the central banks that has kept monetary policy on hold longest. The currency weakness that we've experienced and that I just talked about has allowed the country to have some monetary momentum coming from the export sector and coming from this weak currency. But the base rate remains unchanged, and we think it will remain unchanged through 2013. Right now, the economy is doing well. It's growing at close to 4%. That is above what we consider to be potential. But we've yet to see meaningful, long-lasting pressures on inflation, largely on account of the fact that we see a lot of slack left in the labor market.
Finally, what's the next important event you'll be looking out for in Mexico over the coming weeks?
Well, I think the other thing to note in Mexico is that we have a political transition going on right now. We'll have a new president taking office on December 1st. There's a lot of speculation and a lot of hope that he will be able to approve a number of structural reforms that will make Mexico even more attractive than it is today. So I think that's what the market is basically watching at the moment. I think over the next few months we will get a better sense of whether Mexico will make progress on those very critical structural reforms.
Okay, thanks for joining me, Rafael. That's all we've got time for today. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow as I'll be running through the weekly wrap-up with Todd Gordon of Aspen Trading. But until then, have a great day. Goodbye.